Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 24. 24 is a legendary number in the sports world, especially for the month of January. We're 5 days away from one of the most memorable moments in recent history of the number 24 as we tragically lost Kobe Bryant. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 24 of the Jdash Show. We'll be more positive today. We've had some technical difficulties in pre-recording, so Carlos is a little bit agitated as we
God
speak.
damn microphone.
Um,
Well, I did get it working now, but it was a little bit stressful.
yeah, so if there's any experts out there on operation of how to keep a microphone volume from not going berserk, send us a link. We will like some assistance because we both tried it to help Carlos out, and he still, we got
It looks like I've eventually figured it out, but yeah, basically the settings just kept adjusting the damn microphone, and I couldn't figure it out. And well, it seems like for the time being, we got some duct tape on this problem
some
for
big
the
ass,
time being.
duct tape. That's what I'm saying. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, episode 24 today, Forever Legends. We're going to be discussing two legends that are retiring from the National Football League, especially one of them that's made it official in Philip Rivers, and most likely we're then either days or weeks till we finally know the official word from Drew Brees. But before we start the episode, ladies and gentlemen, remember to follow us on the Twitter sphere of the Jdash Show and at Network Unhinged and at Wrestling Movie G. You can follow this podcast on the website at unhingedsn.com, or you can follow the live stream on unhingedsn.airtime.pro if you're listening to the downloaded app version. If you're listening to us to live right now, hello, how you guys doing? Really appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening to us on Friday night on YouTube. Why are you watching this on YouTube when you could have catch this full show at 3 p.m. on the Unhinged Sports Network? Come on. It's not that hard. UnhingeSN.airtime.pro. And of course, the first hour of our broadcast is powered by Fubo TV. Fubo TV, cut the cable, get all your sports channels from ESPN, CBS, your local channels, and of course for the ladies, your TLC and Home Channel and Cooking Network. And your gentlemen, if you like that stuff, I watch the Cooking Network a lot, trying to imitate what they're doing and still find a way to fuck up the dish. So I just throw it away and order pizza, and the pizza never is messed up. Well, that's if they know how to cook it. But anyways, besides all of that, first hour is presented by Fubo TV. So Fubo TV, go in our description on our Twitter page, click the link, sign up for your 7-day free trial. We got some playoff games to talk about this weekend, AFC NFC Championship game. And if you don't have a TV, Fubo's the way to do it. Get it for free. And if you don't like it, get rid of it. It's a 7-day free trial. It's Fubo TV. The link is in our description. So besides all of that, how are you doing, Carlos? Besides the microphones and chaos, it's been really a non-eventful week.
Yeah, well, I mean, it hasn't. I mean, I've just been very busy at work and whatnot. But, we had the inauguration, players saying goodbye, coaches getting hired, GMs getting hired. Somehow Dwayne Haskins got a job, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, rather uneventful, Not a whole lot to write home about other than,
Yeah.
what's going on in the world of sports right now.
What I meant by uneventful means there wasn't no like breaking stories this week. Everything happened last week so far. The James Harden deal, and that this past weekend with Drew Brees. But besides from that, and the inauguration, and this week has been very non-eventful to a stage where you go on Twitter or you go on Facebook and you have internet trolls trolling you because you have a different stand on something. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm just talking about the general everything. Like our Monday show, I went on a complete rant about Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and
Just a little bit.
yeah, that was our first segment. So yeah, but besides from that, it's really gotten real chill down here in the state of Florida. I know up there in DC you had the inauguration, so sometimes you have to have these type of weeks to just calibrate yourself because the news media over the last couple of years, um, sports, political, entertainment wise, has been so freaking chaotic, especially in 2020, and we're finally starting to calm down to a point. But certain things do pick up, like postseason football. The AFC and NFC Championship game are going to happen this weekend. We'll talk about that in the second hour of our program. But when we look at the overall picture of the narrative of why the news media and sports world is so quiet and so dull right now, is there's a lot of questions within this week in sports terms, like, is Patrick Mahomes going to play? Is Drew Brees legitimate retiring? And coaching hires, is Eric the Enemy going to get a gig? Deshaun Watson, what the hell's happening in Houston? So there are questions to be answered, but the world of sports this week has just been, to a degree, very, very dull compared to last week and then compared to 2 weeks ago. But usually, what happens when postseason football happens is the wild card weekend gets a lot of media coverage because it's the playoffs. Then it then you get the 2 3 days in the week where it gets really dull. Then it picks up during the divisional round. Then it gets dull again. But seeing that this week was the inauguration and sports almost took like a step back this week, which is not bad. It's
It doesn't
my
usually happen.
Yeah, it usually doesn't happen, but the what really happened this week is on Sunday we were recording our Monday episode and we saw Philip Rivers, or excuse me, Drew Brees, pretty much played his last game as a New Orleans Saint, basically.
And
The
it was
one,
not pretty.
no, it wasn't, but how he left the field, how he looked back at the scoreboard, how he looked at Jameis Winston in a couple of videos I've seen, that man does not look, or how he was presenting himself as a person that just lost a game in the playoffs and he's going to go after it next year. That man looked like that was it. That was it. He didn't have he didn't get off, he didn't get, sent off on the chariot. He knew it was over. And he already has that mindset.
He really looked like you know, two two warriors saying goodbye with Brady and Brees meeting up after the game too, and Tom Brady tossing the ball to
Mhm.
Brees' kid and whatnot. So I mean, that looked a lot to me like the body language. It really does look like he's done.
Mhm. And if you heard Brady, he even mentioned something to Drew Brees about the family will see you after the Super Bowl. So apparently the two families are going to meet up somewhere because they both, in the off season, they both live in California. So that they're actually very good friends. So when you see Breeze and doing that with Brady, and Brady's the only Buccaneer player that came out and talked to him, that just tells me where you have to step back from the game itself. Yes, Brady has all the statistical stats. He has all the championships. He has the consideration of being the greatest player of all time as a quarterback. And Drew Brees, that just has the same accolades as him. Maybe not as many Maybe not. He doesn't have as many championships.
That's like 6-1
At Yeah,
ratio
it's
there.
6-1. But Drew Brees statistically, in some categories, is better than Brady. He has passing. Yeah, I think he has more passing yards than Brady, and I think he has more touchdown passes than Brady.
Right now, I'm looking at Breeze. He's got over 80,000 yards, 571 touchdowns, 243 interceptions, career rating of 98.7.
Still, it's a hell of a career. Those are Hall of Fame numbers. The man's made multiple playoff appearances, and he's been on the other end of some historical plays, the Minneapolis Miracle, the non-pass interference call against the St. Louis Rams.
Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, Los Angeles Rams. My apologies.
I still call St. Louis all the
Yeah.
time too.
And you look at it when we were recording the episode on Sunday, watching that game. It was to a point for me. We knew that Brady was going to come back next year, but there was that question about Drew Brees, and you always want to have not really historic, you know, climax to your career, like winning a championship. Very few players can do that in their time. Some of the players never even get to the Super Bowl. When we look at Drew Brees' career, and they're going to compare him to Brady and Peyton and Eli of his generation, of the guys he played against, and he should be considered at the elite level. That man, that man single-handedly put New Orleans back on the map by himself. He stayed there. He signed a big free agent deal. I think it was like 5 years ago to stay there. He was a man who basically donated half his salary to the redevelopment of New Orleans after Katrina. This man is a guy of the community, and he was a representation of a true saint. And for a quarterback with his statue, and now you're telling me that next season we won't get to see Drew Brees in the NFL. It just tells you that even though you might hate the guy if you're like a Falcon fan or a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan or a Carolina Panther fan over the years, and you had to play him twice a year, and you can't stand his Saints, you have to appreciate those games you face him because players like that don't stay around the league for long. Well, technically, for him in this case, I think it's 17 years, but
Actually, 20.
about exactly 20 years. So,
15 for New Orleans, 5 for San Diego.
and still 20-year career. The guy's going to the Hall of Fame. And when I see people like, oh, take shots at Brees, I thank God he's retiring. He's an old man. Are people who just been, butt hurt for many years of getting beat by Drew Brees.
Who the hell goes after Drew Brees? He's like the nicest guy on the planet.
Well, same. But also, Drew Brees, in my opinion, when his name gets selected on the first ballot or gets eligible for a Hall of Fame, he's first ballot. He should be unanimous. Just like I think Peyton Manning's going to be unanimous to be in this year. It's going to be odd not seeing Drew Brees next year. Now, the question is, where do the Saints go now? Do they go Taysom Hill? Do they go Jameis? Or do they go after like a free agent quarterback like Matthew Stafford out of Detroit, who has openly said that he wants out of Detroit?
I actually think they're probably been grooming Jameis Winston this whole time, and they'll keep doing what they've been doing with Taysom.
Yeah, because I think that's right because if you saw the image of Drew Brees and Jameis at the end of the game, and you could tell that Jameis, yes, was number one overall pick to the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers organization when he was drafted is not the Buccaneers organization that's there now. Brady's basically brought in better players by himself because of his name. But the Saints organization, in my opinion, is built for success for Jameis Winston. And I know we may have, podcast listeners out there that say you have no idea what you're talking about. Well, I'm a Florida State University grad. I watched him grow in FSU. He can adjust. Problem with Jameis, his ego gets in his way. He just needed a tutor. Like in Florida State, he had a tutor. He had Jimbo Fisher. When he went to the NFL, he didn't have a tutor. So you have multiple offensive coordinators and multiple coaching changes. You can't, sustain yourself like that. Now he's going to be in New Orleans with Sean Payton. He already had a tutor in Drew Brees. And when James did come in to help, like in situations where Drew Brees got hurt, when he came into for those couple drives or a couple of quarters, he looked pretty good. The offense still moved down the field, and last week's game against Tampa Bay, The only pass that was above 20 yards was from Jameis Winston. Yes, it was a trick play, but still, it was a pass beyond 20 yards. And that's saying something for James. And James's ego from Florida State is big.
I
But I think
hated him. I
by
really couldn't stand him.
but I think now that he's in New Orleans, he's gotten humbled. And I think that's because of Drew Brees. And I think Jameis needed that. When you mentioned Jameis could be was being in the mold and being the next guy in New Orleans, I really do believe that. I do think New Orleans may draft a quarterback in later rounds, like a third or fourth round draft pick to groom a third guy. But I won't be surprised if New Orleans tries goes after a free agent quarterback. But I do think Jameis is capable of taking the helm. We've seen that in Tampa, the 30 for 30. It could be his own ESPN special from 2 years ago. But yeah, it's going to be weird. No matter who is the next quarterback for New Orleans, it's going to be weird that Drew Brees won't be in that jersey next year.
I mean, he's been a symbol of consistency for that squad.
Yep. Also, another quarterback decided to, call it a career, and he has just not as the stats are not as equal to Drew Brees. Philip Rivers decided to retire this season, so I think his wife was done having kids. So it was almost like each year that he played football, they have another kid.
Hell,
Uh,
dude, now that he's going to have more time on his hands, they might have more.
yeah, but he has the money to support that, though. Philip Rivers gets a bad rap, in my opinion. It's because he was considered the second fiddle to Eli Manning. He was a part of that Eli Manning fiasco, that trade and switch on
Oh,
there.
I thought you meant his shit talking on the field because
Oh,
he is
the
a legendary trash
yes,
talker, and I used to despise him when he would play against Denver.
Philip Rivers was one of those. I'm going to chew you out, but I'm not going to be an asshole about it.
But
Like he wasn't vulgar like other trash talkers were. He was a good trash talker, yes, I admit. And he was annoying on some occasions.
he was a brilliant prick. Like
Yes.
he had some Reggie Miller stuff going on.
Yeah. He knew where to plant his trash talking without being, too much of a distraction to his team. That's one good thing about Philip Rivers. He was a man that he could talk. I remember when he was playing the Jaguars 2 years ago. Yanaki Ngakwe sacked him, but he got up and he goes, "Hey, good hit, man, good hit." But that's a 65-yard touchdown pass. You can run your ass to the other sideline. And I was like, "Damn!" And Yannick is like, "Oh, stop talking, stop running your mouth, run your mouth. You ain't nothing. You were on the ground." And you hear Philip Rivers like, "End zone, baby, touchdown, woo, woo!" I'm like, "Oh my god." Um, but yeah, all quarterbacks have that itch in them. Philip Rivers was one. I forgot who it was. I want to think is Ladainius Thompson said that Philip Rivers was killing you softly with the trash talking.
He would just hinge his way
He'll
into
just
your head.
yeah,
You know,
he'll get in your head and strike you when you're not ready. And sometimes that for a quarterback, you need that type of fiery action from a quarterback. But one thing when I look at Philip Rivers' career, I guarantee there are coaches out there that look at his form, his release, and go, "How in the hell did you get in the NFL with that throwing motion?
they're like, man,
How?"
you make Chad Pennington look like he has a normal throw.
That's true. Chad Pennington
Chad
has
Pennington,
a.
he had a funky throw.
Come to think of it, all the quarterbacks that came from Marshall had funky throws because Byron
Byron
Leftwich
Leftwich.
looked like when he was going to throw a football, he had to go grab the ball from his calf and launch it. Um, but the question that you brought up is Philip Rivers a Hall of Famer? In my observation of his career, yes. Is he a first ballot? No. Will he make it on his first time on the ballot? Uh, Maybe, but
It's not as
definitely his second year.
solidified. Yeah, it's not as solidified as Drew Brees because I think you could theoretically make the argument that, well, for all intents and purposes, he was a failure. If you look at his records, they're not as pretty in the second half of his career as opposed to like the really, really hot start.
Yep.
Like Marty Schottenheimer and Norv Turner. 14-2, 11-5, then 8-8, then 13-3, then 9-7, 8-8, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7,
But what makes him?
5-11. It's kind of
Yeah,
all over the place.
but still, in the 17-year career, he made the playoffs 17 times, or 12 times out of his 17 years.
And he only missed 4 games. Dude's an Iron Man.
Yes.
Out of a possible 244 games, he started 240, and that is impressive.
And he's 134 and he's 134 and 106 overall. So basically, if you look at that, he made the playoffs 12 years in his 17-year career. So in those 5 years that his team did not make the postseason, they were bad to get him to 106 losses.
That's San Diego for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Los Angeles.
He was never with the. Oh yeah, yes he was. He was 2 years. Never mind. But what makes him a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, is the 19 playoff appearances, the 29 fourth quarter comebacks, the 35 winning drives, fourth quarter winning drives, 8-time Pro Bowler. He's thrown over 400 touchdown passes, and he's roughly right around 63,500 yards passing. That's Hall of Fame numbers. He may not have the ring. He may have not won a conference championship, but Philip Rivers and the San Diego LA Chargers and the Indianapolis Colts for his final season were always contenders when he was a quarterback. Always. Even though the 5 years that he missed the playoffs, he was still contenders. Because I remember there were some years there that San Diego was always either that first team that missed the postseason. And I hear people on other podcasts despise Philip Rivers, but they despise him because he's a former rival quarterback. But they don't sit back and look at the person's career and go, is he a Hall of Famer? Does he have the stats? Does he have the qualifications? In my opinion, if you only miss 4 football games and you started 244 and you made it to 12 postseasons and you advanced to at least the divisional round 4-5 times, San Diego is not New England. San Diego is not Indianapolis. San Diego was not the Denver Broncos. San Diego never had a team that can win it all. They were never a team that was going to. They were going to be that third seed, that wild card team that was going to give you a pain in the ass game in the first game. And if they did advance, it was fun. But they usually ran out of steam against the elite teams of the AFC. But that doesn't mean Philip Rivers is not a Hall of Famer. There are quarterbacks out there that have championships, that have the Super Bowl ring, that don't deserve to even touch the Hall of Fame. But because they have that Super Bowl ring, they're held to a higher standard than Philip Rivers. I'm talking to you, Trent Dilfer.
I was about to say, no. I don't think anybody confused Trent Dilfer being better, but he does have that ring.
Yeah,
something he'll always be able to hold.
And he always flashes it on ESPN.
Of course he does.
And
Why
I'm like,
the hell wouldn't he?
Every time I see that, it's like, Trent, you did not win that damn Super Bowl. That was the Ravens defense that won you that Super Bowl. That was Ray Lewis.
Dude, he's trolling. He knows exactly what he's doing.
And I like how Trent Dilfer gives advice to Philip Rivers on like Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football games. I'm like, why will he take advice from you? You just hopped on a very good defense and won a championship.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of smart football minds, do come from former, most of the time, backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And Trent Dilfer's a smart guy.
Yeah, Trent Dilfer is. But if you're saying, I saw the question about this earlier, actually here in Jacksonville on the radio, and that's the reason why I just brought Trent Dilfer, because they were talking about Trent Dilfer. They were saying what Philip Rivers is. My opinion, he is a Hall of Famer. He may not get in on the first year when he's on the ballot. He may get in the second year. but he should be among the quarterbacks like Eli Manning, who's going to get into the Hall of Fame because A, his last name's a Manning, and B, he has 2 Super Bowl rings, and 3, he has decent stats. Philip Rivers has better stats than Eli,
Yep.
just but doesn't have the rings.
Yep.
So if you want to switch it to another sport, for instance, the NBA, John Stockton and Karl Malone are Hall of Famers. They don't have any rings. Charles Barkley's a Hall of Famer. He doesn't have a ring.
I do find that the NBA is a lot more forgiving, but I think that's
Yes.
also because the NBA has teams like the Lakers
And the Celtics.
Who just eat up tons of titles. They have enough
Yeah.
titles that are in the double digits, whereas in
Yes.
the NFL,
They both have 17 championships.
yeah, like the NFL championships are spread apart
Yeah.
a lot more.
We're losing Drew Brees. Not losing Drew Brees, and we're not. They're not dead, ladies and gentlemen. They're still alive and kicking. Next season, we will have an NFL that's without Drew Brees and Philip Rivers.
I find it very interesting that both their careers are just at the beginning were so tied together, and now they both retire at the same time.
Yeah.
So 2 of the greatest San Diego Charger quarterbacks just retired. Well, more or less at this point have retired.
Yeah.
Season.
But with that, to close out the first segment of the day, and if you're listening to us on YouTube, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. Remember, come follow us on unhingedsn.com for a live stream episode, or you can follow us on Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts at the Jdash Show. So we're doing a little thing. We're going to call it Trivia Friday for all you listeners out there. And for you to win a prize, you have to tweet us the answer. So this week's question is, what statistical ranking does Josh McCown, Tim Tebow, and Patrick Mahomes share? Tweet at the J Dash Show with the answer, and the winner will receive a Unhinged Sports Network tag sticker.
Again, you'll be the envy of your neighborhood and your friends. You'll have that sticker out, be like, "Yeah, baby, Unhinged Sports Network."
So with that, the question again, if you missed it the first time, in what statistical ranking does Josh McCown, Tim Tebow, and Patrick Mahomes share? Give us the answer via Twitter at J Show, and the winner will be announced once the right answer is given to us.
Yeah, and it's an interesting stat. They share the exact same number. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you see this.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, coming up next for the second part of the segment, we're going to get into some more NFL talk. This is the J Dash Show here on the Unhinged Sports Network.